Hi, welcome to the Sands of Time. I'm Lisa Strauss Lawrence.
And I'm Susan Capurso. And today we're here discussing there's three phases, Lisa, right, during the end of life journey. So we start with the shock phase, go into the stabilization phase, and then the transition phase. But today we're just going to be talking to you about that beginning stage a little bit. The shock phase is what we call it. So there's many phases that we need to take time to go through the journey. Some people go through them much quicker. Some people take a year to go through their end of life journey because the end of life is really all about when it's time for us to pass and move on from this world to the next. So our body slowly starts to shut down, and we know that dying is imminent. And again, this can range from days to weeks to months to a year or two, depending on your own diagnosis.
Yeah, for my
So today
husband, it
we're,
was
go ahead.
for my husband, it actually was 15 months. And the
Right,
shock phase was just finding out that he had pancreatic cancer.
right,
Just such an incredible shock when you just think that he has stomach problems or he had some abdominal distress, but have no clue that it's anything more serious.
right. Because you get those signs and symptoms, and that's what makes you go to the doctor, originally in the beginning. And then once you hear that diagnosis, I mean, our lives get scattered. Feelings are all over the place. There are so many emotions, agony, right? Fear. It's a state of misery almost that takes over your entire being, right? I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And in fact, they didn't even say those words, which is really interesting because I had to find out through research. The oncologist had written an RX on the prescription for painkillers, and it said adenocarcinoma. I didn't know what adenocarcinoma was, and neither did my husband. And when we got home, I looked it up in the dictionary, and I looked up a medical dictionary, and it said pancreatic cancer. What a shock!
that's
Like what?
crazy. That is crazy because we get hit with a nightmare, but yet we don't know the little details. And even if the doctors do, I think, say a little bit of the details, we're not hearing them at that point. We're not hearing them. And we go home like we've just been slammed, and what happens next? We live in a nightmare and it's chaos,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. It was like the life we had before and the life we have now. That's exactly how it was.
Right. And the whole end of life journey, it's unique to everyone. So it can be a little bit different for you. For me, what I went through an experience with my husband that lasted 55 days. And the things that you experience are different than the things that I experienced. But it's still all an end of life journey from beginning to the end, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I think life changes as we once knew it, not only for the individual, but wouldn't you say the whole family? As soon as
Absolutely.
we give them those words, everything changes, right?
And we all react differently too. My
Oh, yeah.
husband would not even open up any information, did not want to know anything, and said to me, "Don't tell me anything." That's what he absolutely said to me. And I was busy researching and finding out and becoming an expert in this area because I didn't even know where pancreas was.
Right.
And after that, I had to find out everything I could and where people were going and what they were doing. I joined listservs. He didn't want any part of it. Didn't want any
It's
part
the
of it.
beginning of a roller coaster ride. And the problem with this roller coaster ride is the normal roller coaster ride ends in fun and exhilaration. But we know that this roller coaster ride has no good ending. It has no good ending. And it really can shut us down. And that seems to be what happens to everybody that gets that diagnosis.
You
Right?
hope and you continue to try and any glimmer of, well, it's getting better, or any glimmer of, well, maybe, or but it just looks so bleak.
Lisa, death is the second leading fear globally, worldwide. And although in other countries, we're in the United States, but in other countries, they celebrate end of life. they don't fear it like we do in the United States. You know, they celebrate it. They just, to give you an idea, in Ireland, I read a book called My Father's Wake, I believe was the name of the book. And the son lived here in the United States and hadn't been home for a long, long time. But when his father passed, he went home. And the townspeople just come from all over, whether they know you or not, and they sit with you for a couple days in the family, and they eat and they drink and they celebrate and talk about your life, and everybody's there to comfort one another, and it's such a beautiful thing. And in here, you know, what do we talk about? We have the 2 hour wake.
Right.
Okay, and if we did celebrations, pre-life celebrations like that before you go, what would we talk about at the 2 hour wake? Right? Thank God Aunt Mary did that. We got to spend 8 hours with her telling stories, doing this, doing that.
Yes. Yes.
So, but death is really, it's fearful. It's a fearful subject. Nobody wants to talk about it, let alone plan for it beforehand while you're going through it. Nobody knows what to do. There's no manual that they give us in school that says when end of life comes, follow this step, and this step, because God, that would make life a heck of a lot easier,
It
right?
would. It would.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Our country's very different about this.
Right, right. And then when people too get their diagnosis, a lot of times, like your husband who said, I don't want to talk about it. Okay. A lot of people don't. Now, for the person who does want to talk about it and does want to pre plan and do things for their family, even after that diagnosis, which we'll talk about more in the stabilization phase. But for those people, a lot of acceptance and honesty and completion and wholeness and closure can come about for family members as well as the person passing. But for right now, in this first phase, a lot of times, no, let's not talk about it. I don't want to, don't tell anybody. I don't
Yes.
want to talk about it. Let's just push it under the carpet. And what happens is the person withdraws. They
Yes.
don't want to overburden their family, so they just decide, no, let's keep quiet,
That's
right?
my husband. That's exactly that's who he was.
And
And
you
I
know
had
what
to
happens
respect
though?
that. I had to respect that. But the
You
problem for
do.
me is that I still had my feelings of the
That's it.
incredible shock that that his life is going to end. And so I
That's
had to
it.
deal with my own feelings too.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So it's really, this is one of the reasons that we're doing these um, semi podcasts, we can call them here. We're doing them because we need to raise awareness. Because if the family knows this about the person with the diagnosis, that they just don't want to talk about it, then what? Then it's up to the family or family member or friend or person closest to that person. They can help them. They could guide them through this journey. They can navigate and they can support them by doing many, many different things, right? And you were there for your husband, although he didn't want it, right? But at least you could still be that backbone and you can do some of the things that need to be done, even though it's just as hard for you,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That was a tough
Oh,
time for
it's
you, I know.
15 months of hell, truly. And I had to figure out how I was going to survive. He survived in his own way, trying to deny it. But I had to survive and figure out how to get through it.
Right, exactly. So, what we want people to know today in talking about this is that if you're given the opportunity to help a person in their journey, take it. Take it. It's really, it's a rare gift. It's a sacred time that you can be there to help bridge the gap between life and death for them, because they are on a transition now. And don't you think everybody deserves this? Everybody deserves this person who can guide and navigate and support. That's what an end of life doula does, but not just an end of life doula. That's what you do as a wife. That's what you do as a daughter. That's what you do as a friend. You can help guide and support them and learn things ahead of time that you could bring into this journey. to help it make it a more gentler, loving, and more peaceful journey. And it won't just be for them, it'll be for you as well.
In addition to it really being a celebration of somebody's life,
Hmm.
in the end, you hope that that's what it's going to be, you
You
know?
know, there's a big difference, Lisa, and I had done a blog, a series of blogs about this, about two women. And I won't go into the whole story now, but the one woman had a family and she was in denial and didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to accept it, and everything like you saying your husband had first felt. And then the second woman, though, she wanted to talk about it. She wanted to have that open and raw communication. She wanted to bond with her husband and her daughter. And she wanted to make this the last few months, the best few months ever. So she implemented things
Mm,
that, again, we're going to talk about in our series as time goes on. But she implemented things that would make this process roll out like that. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's hard, yes. And it's overwhelming, yes. But afterwards, after they're gone, and we're all going, we're
sure.
all going to go. But
Right.
after they're
Mm,
gone, guess who's left behind? And if it can help their grieving process, us, you
yes.
and I, if it helps the grieving process and helps us to move on a little more quickly, not, I don't want to say quickly because sometimes it takes,
Yeah.
there's no time, can
Yes.
take 10 or 20 years,
That's right.
but to help it be a little bit better, then uh, we have to do that for one another in this life. We have to
Yeah.
do that.
That's a gift. That's a gift to the people we love and care for.
That's right.
Yeah.
Dying is inevitable. It's inevitable. And as we get towards middle age, we start to think about our own process and how we want to do things for our family. And communicating is the best thing. Our future generations are going to want to know more about us, right? And that's something else we're going to talk about. I mean, look at ancestry.com today,
Yeah. Yes.
right?
Yes.
Millions and millions of people. And why are they searching? Because they need validation on who they are and they want to know where they came from. And we have the power now to help a person passing do this for their
Right.
children, their grandchildren, and for future generations to come.
And that shock also demands change. You got to now reevaluate where you are and what you're doing and what the needs are going to be. What do you need to do now? What changes you're going to have to make? Whether it's taking leave of your job or whether it's doing part time or working from home, whatever it is. When my mom was in the hospital for 7.5 months, I all my work was done on a laptop, and I just didn't go in because I was running to the hospital all the time. Um, and I was lucky. I had an employer that was flexible, and she understood how important it was that I was there for my mom. So
And
that's what
it's
I did.
frightening, because we know as human beings, we know that nobody should be alone in this journey. Nobody. So again, if you have the opportunity to be the one for them, please take it. Please take it, learn, read, listen to things like this, and just educate yourself as much as you can on how you can help their journey flow more smoothly. And I think that's our intention, Lisa, to do these series. We're just starting in our goal here, but it's our intention to do a multitude of these videos to help with the little things in between. And our plan over the next year, we already have our plan figured on the little things that you can do in between, before, during, and thereafter, because that's a whole nother journey in itself, is thereafter, after a person passes. So
Yes.
we're just hoping to bring awareness and educate a little bit. And we're so happy that you listened to this first video today. I
And
think
please
that,
feel free to contact us either by
sure.
email or by phone with the contact information listed above our names. We both offer one-to-one counseling, and our books certainly support the topics that we're going to be presenting. Stay tuned and subscribe to our page for new topics weekly.
Yeah,
And
thank you for joining us.
thank you so much.